Alex, thanks for joining us. A full week's working with the players, under 23 game as well, as all taking place and ready for the weekend. But before we get into a few other things, everybody will be talking about Courtney Baker-Richards, who unfortunately missed last week and was a big miss. What's your update on him for the fans?
Yeah, he's coming along fine. It's not as serious as we first thought, or potentially thought it could be. Saturday might come too soon for him, but it's certainly not a long-term injury. And if he isn't ready, fit, and available for Saturday against Gillingham, he certainly will be for the Tranmere game next Friday. So we'll see how that develops over the next 24 hours, because that'll be quite telling, obviously, in terms of how he responds to the work that he does with the physio today in particular. And I'm apologising for giving you some duff information last week. I said obviously he'd injured it whilst playing on his Xbox. Apparently it was his PS5. I haven't got a clue what the difference is between the two, so apologies to everybody out there for obviously not being completely accurate in terms of how he got injured. Obviously, last time I was on a computer playing games was like a Game Boy or an Atari ST, so that's how well informed I am with modern technologies and gaming and that. So yeah, that's where we're at with it.
You're not looking for me to give you the answer either, because I haven't got a clue. We've only just found a way down to Channel 5 on the telly, but that's for another day.
Well, you'd have been on, last time you'd have been on a computer, would have been a Commodore or something, would it?
Oh dear, but on a serious point, I guess what you're thinking about is how many injuries you've picked up this year. You must have been fearing the worst when you went for the scan.
Yeah, we were, because obviously the injuries have been in areas of the pitch where it's taken away attacking threats. Obviously, Ollie Finney, Callum Ainley, Chris Long, and now Courtney are all in attacking areas of the pitch. We're well stocked elsewhere in terms of being able to select players. So obviously what we didn't want to do was lose Courtney predominantly, because he's been outstanding for us this season and he's the one that's been getting our goals. And others need to chip in and obviously come to the forefront in terms of contributing towards that now, whether he's fit or not, because we need to spread the goals around the team if we're going to obviously score more goals than we have so far. 5
clean sheets already under the belt for you. How important was it when you consider what had gone on and how many goals have been conceded last time around, that you got that into your team straight away and you become a harder team to beat?
Yeah, that was absolutely essential, because obviously it stands to reason, doesn't it, without stating the obvious. You can't lose games of football if you're keeping clean sheets, and it gives you a platform obviously to then go on potentially win the game. So that's great. We've obviously nailed that down nice and early, and obviously got a high proportion of clean sheets in those games, and already exceeded obviously what we produced in terms of clean sheets last season. Now we've got to work exceptionally hard to be more of a creative and attacking force, and those players and the attacking areas of the pitch have got to step forward and be more consistent in those areas of the game. It's not just the fact that we need to create more chances, it's obviously having that composure and that clinical mindset when those chances do occur. So that's an area of the game we've been working on constantly over the last few days, the last couple of weeks. And hopefully we'll see some evidence of that going into the Gillingham game Saturday.
Yeah, while people may see that as a bit of a negative, that you haven't got the goals like everybody wants to see, an attacking side scoring goals more than the opposition, you must really take a positive out of the way that you have defended as a unit.
Yeah, absolutely, we certainly have, because obviously we look a good, strong, organised, efficient unit in terms of out of possession, and we've been competitive in every game, and long may that continue. If we're going to become the team that everybody wants us to become, certainly in the short and the medium term, then obviously it's at the other end of the pitch where we need to bring all that together without compromising what we've already built, in terms of that defensive unit. So yeah, you can never overlook plenty of the positives that we've managed to bring so far this season. But if we're going to be a developing, evolving team, then we need to make sure that those areas that we're not doing so well are improved on greatly over the next few weeks, so that we can get somewhere near towards reeling off win after win after win, because that's something we've not been able to do since the first 2 games.
So as you look to become that more offensive side, what can you do with your players? What did they do? Extra work? Did they do extra sessions, creating and scoring more goals as you build up towards your next weekend's game?
Yeah, it's a multitude of quite a few things, Graham. We do a lot of video work in terms of bringing those pictures to life for them, showing them occasions in the games where they've missed those opportunities to be more creative, or missed opportunities to take a shot at goal. The practices that we put in, out on the training pitch are all conducive towards developing that side of the game, so that they become exposed to it again and again, and they get to be in those areas of the pitch, you know, Monday through till Friday, so that it doesn't come as a surprise to them on a Saturday. And also just giving them that confidence and that mentality to believe that they're good players and that they can succeed in those areas of the pitch. And the more that you obviously emphasise all of those things and the more that you practice those things, you hope that it comes together.
And as you worked towards the weekend, you took that away point last week again. You know, you didn't get back-to-back defeats, which is a little record that you're trying to keep going. So the key now is to build on an away point to try and get 3 at home. Yeah,
absolutely. Off the back of the Stevenage game, we picked up 4, didn't we? Away draw and a home win, and that's exactly what we want to do and need to do off the back of the Mansfield game. We got the draw. Out of those 2 results, obviously it would have been even better if we'd have won the game. We see that as a missed opportunity to have gone on and won that game, having looked back at it retrospectively. But yeah, we go into the Gillingham game knowing that we've got to try and win this game, because these types of fixtures, particularly any fixture at home, we've got to try and get 3 points on the board, because draws just lead to you being static, whereas it's the wins that really sort of put you back into contention in terms of being in those areas of the table that we want to be in.
You passed on a couple of stats a couple of weeks ago regarding how many substitutes you've used, how many players you've named, and you're right, you know, right at the top of the least type of numbers that you've made those changes. And I think you've got to give a lot of credit there for the players, for how many minutes they put in the opening 11 games, have you?
Yeah, absolutely. The boys that have been regulars have put in, you know, a real shift over the course of the first 2 months, 2.5 months now of the season. And there's been a lot on our team. I think 5 that have started every game maybe. I think we got Arthur, Luke, Tariq, Dan Aggie, and one other I might have missed that have started every game. Might have missed one other. But anyway, I digress. So those players are putting in a lot of effort in terms of energy and intensity and the mentality it takes to reel off the games every week. But we've got players now that are coming into contention, some of the younger lads who over the last couple of weeks have really started to show that they're ready to be introduced into the first team environment. So that certainly helps us and strengthens our case to make more changes from the bench, or consider changing the starting 11 as well.
So the next question, because have they strengthened their position? What's happened this week? You've been talking about goals. 6 were scored in an under-23 game, and quite a lot of those players that you've got high hopes for were involved, you know, and did well.
Yeah, they put together a great performance at Hull. Jacko was really pleased with them in terms of their output there. And the 23s have put in some good performances this season without managing to win games. They've been really unlucky in certain stages of games, but it all came together at Hull. There's plenty of goal scorers there. Conor Evans got a couple, Joel Taberner and Charlie Finney got a goal apiece, and did the things that we need to see from them in those types of games to strengthen their case coming forward. And I'd have absolutely no hesitation in terms of those two being, particularly Charlie from the start and Tabs from the bench, being considerations moving forward, because they're now at the stage, 8, 9, 10 weeks, however far we are into the season, where they are ready for those types of situations and being exposed to them.
You're saying there at the stage, what are you making of where Zach Williams is at the moment? He's had a bit of a tough time last weekend, and how you deal with that and how he deals with it. But he's been away and captained his country, I think, for 3 games, and he came back in the summer and made sure he was ready for the Rochdale game. Is it just a little time now you spend a bit of time together, you and him, and have a little chat here and there? Yeah,
I mean, myself and Belly constantly have dialogue with Zach. What we forget with him is he's still so young. He's played so much football since the age of 17 through till now as a first team footballer. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about in terms of Zach's development. He's still miles ahead of the curve. If you look traditionally at when players break through and put together 30, 40 games on the spin for this club, initially, it's usually when the 19, 20, he's done it as a 17, 18-year-old. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about in that sense. He had a bit of a wobble last week. It was the right thing to do to bring him off, I think, because he was in danger of potentially getting another card at some point in the game, which would have not only affected him, but of course had a huge effect on the team as a whole. So he's come in, he's been absolutely fine since then. And as with all the young players, it's about constantly having correspondence and dialogue with them, talking to them, because you've got to mentor them as well as obviously coach them. And and manage them. And you know, we've known him for a long time, so we know what makes him tick, and we know what we need to manage with that to ensure that he keeps on improving going forward.
Saturday comes around, Gillingham are here, they've had a tough start, but they've just had a couple of results in their favour, and a couple of players who know the way around a little bit here. Mick Amanda, who did really well for you, and Scott Casket, who was in and out of the team through injuries quite a lot of time, but they'll be trying to get one over on you.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, we want to, you know, avoid that curse of ex-players coming back to clubs, not just our club. I'm sure it happens up and down the land, and obviously scoring goals. Those two play up front together, and I would hope and think that, you know, they're not going to cause us too many surprises in terms of the way that they play, because they've been pretty settled in that sense in a 4-4-2. So we welcome those two boys back. They were both great lads around the changing room. Both of them really were. They wouldn't have been happy with how their final season ended here, like everybody else, I'm sure. But it'd be nice to see them, but we hope that they go home empty-handed and disappointed at 6 o'clock whenever they board that team bus to go back down south.